Hey guys, what's up? It's your course director, Emily Ray here. Just wanted to go over your recent portfolio site submission. So I'm going to take a look at your revised site and give you a little bit of feedback on things to be thinking about as you proceed to Portfolio 7 and then out of the MCBS program. So we're going to start here with Anthony's site. One thing to note is that there's no sort of identity or brand up here in the header. I'd go ahead and recommend that. Also notice that the content here is scrolling up and is being obscured by this. I would go ahead and make this a solid navigation, sticky navigation bar so that the content disappears behind it instead of kind of obstructs that text. We get to know a little bit about you here, that you're into web development. We get an image and then the ability to view some of your work. Scrolling down in the About section, you kind of give us this nice little visual story, right? So you're kind of giving a little bit of text and then some icons to kind of help with the visuals there, your skills in these different areas. So liking to see that, and then some projects that you've worked on. I just wanted to see if this was like a one-paging scrolling situation. It is. Okay, so kind of scrolling down and looking at these projects. So here we have some design that you've done. This looks like it's a video, kind of a weird aspect ratio. You might think about putting a custom thumbnail in here and kind of making this more full screen for me to be able to see it, because it's kind of rendering a little strange. And then we've got your media kit here. So one thing that's a little bit off for me is that you most closely identify as web development, and I'd love to see if you have anything in that range to showcase here. Would be awesome to see. We have your LinkedIn and can contact you there. This is functional in showing sort of like a spectrum of your abilities, but there's a little bit of a disconnect for me in terms of ultimately what is this site useful for you. Think about like beyond an activity, assignment, and exercise, like as a school project. What can you build that will help you when you leave MCBS and ultimately to get the kind of job that you want to there. So just a few tips to kind of help push this to its next best place. We're taking a look at Trevor's site here, so immediately lets us know that we're, that you're into marketing and storytelling. As I'm scrolling, I want you to notice that the identity here goes away completely. So you need to really put your name up in this area so that when I'm not directly looking at it, I can remember whose site I'm on. We get this little about message, kind of letting you know more about Trevor and what you're into. Kind of scrolling here, we see some skills. Now this is a bit of a disconnect for me in that you have bolded all of these things and they look like links because you've underlined them, except nothing happens when I click. So you've kind of set up the expectation that something is going to happen there, and everything is just really linear in scrolling. I would recommend a bit more of a dynamic layout. Can we have maybe like a few columns of your skills here so it's not pushing so far down on the page? Additionally, I don't see much in terms of the visuals, so there's definitely an opportunity there. We've got your resume. As I hover over this, I can see that it's just downloading as a PDF, so that's definitely what you want to have happen there. You don't want to download a Word document or any sort of image like a JPEG or a PNG. That's not a best practice for sharing your resume. So like here, we're going to look at your portfolio, right? There's a lot of empty space. There's a lot of scrolling going on here. So not quite understanding what happens to go from portfolio to works. And that seems like it's clickable, and then blog is clickable. Is there a way? And then branding is also clickable. So it's really, there's a lot of space in between these, and it's like, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Oh, but you have to click to get it. So you're setting it up, but really making your viewer work for it. So I would recommend, instead of doing that, maybe showcase like one or two, pieces here on this homepage. And if you want to send a link to view more, go ahead and do that. But, you really haven't showed us anything on this page related to any of your skills at this point. So that's kind of like not using this valuable real estate on your homepage. So I'm going to click on work, see what happens. All right, so nothing's going on there. So let's go click on blog. Okay, so blog takes me to a broken page, and then branding. Okay, also a broken page. Scrolling down, photography. Let's see. Here we're going to click on that. And nothing is happening there. So, and then Little Red Riding Hood Twitter. Okay, so, I'm making the assumption that this is part of your assignment for gaming and transmedia, but like, to have this be the only link that's working on your page is like a huge disconnect. Like if I was a stranger and came to this site, I would have no idea what was happening, especially why it would take me to that Twitter page. So scrolling down, we just see a simple contact form and then ways that we can get in touch. So I know that this is quite a visual departure from where you were on your site back in, previous portfolio classes, but as is, it's nothing but a placeholder for content that isn't there. So more work needs to be done to bring those projects in to showcase your marketing and storytelling abilities, and organized in a way that's user friendly, and it doesn't really have to make the site visitor work for it. So certainly those are the opportunities for you there, Trevor. Let's just see, poking back through to these pages. All right, next up we're going to take a look at Samantha's site. So it's really kind of clean and stunning when we look at it. One thing to note though, like this logo over here, it seems kind of like an afterthought, and it's so small that like it's really hard to read this word down here. So I think it says Professional Daydreamer, right? If you want to include a logo, like a logo mark, maybe you can put it over here in front of your name, but because it actually has your name in it, then it becomes redundant, right? So I'm not sure that this works in that capacity. So I encourage you to kind of rethink about how, what are the elements of this that you like, that you want to carry over in a way that's usable with this new design. So we've got your social media links here, and they are in fact linking out to other locations on the web where we can keep in touch with you. So I always like to follow everybody here on Instagram to keep in touch. One thing to note is that you always want those to open in new browser windows or new tabs. So it did that. You don't want to take someone fully away from the site that they came to. Scrolling down, we've got kind of a fun image here and like moving us into some of your skills. So content marketing, outreach, strategy. So this is kind of telling us what it is that you do. One thing to note though, like you're really kind of pushing this contextualization of your site really far down. You've got some great images, and I think that they should all be kept, but not stacked so much on top of each other. You're talking about everybody has a story to tell. But though we really don't know much more about the site until we get down here, right? So, and you don't really label these even as services that much. So like what are these? Content areas, things that you do, services that you're offering. I think some additional clarity there is needed. We've got a kind of a fun quote here, and then it looks like this is pulling in content from your Instagram page, which is awesome. And here looks like maybe some blog posts. I'm going to go ahead and click on one. It's going to bring up a video portrait, right? So, one thing to note is that you've given it this title here, but the title that you have on YouTube is your name and DVA final revision. Now, that's not a meaningful title in that it's just the assignment title, not the title of your creative work. So, I would encourage you to think about a better title and give me a description of this piece, all of the roles that you played in creating it. Doing so will give me a better understanding of your skill set and potentially what I could hire you for. So, all of the projects that you're sharing in that way, give me title, description, and give me the context to understand the content more fully so that I can appreciate it. Just a quick about page here. So anytime you have paragraph text, which is essentially more than a title or a subtitle, you want that left aligned for more easy readability. We've got an image here, your work history, kind of sharing a little bit about the places that you've been. But sort of what's noticeably absent is like a visual identity. So you say about me, but I don't see who you are, so I can't connect with this me. So I encourage you to put a headshot or something in there that's representative so that we can put a face to the name and to this story that you're telling here. Let's see, you have this chat bot, but then let's see, get in touch. I'm going to click on that. It's going to take me to this contact form, which is great. I encourage you to think about a call to action. Why should people contact you? You want to make that clear. Are you providing services? Is this for feedback? Is it just general comments on your blog? You want to make all that really clear. Next up, we're going to take a look at Megan's site. So Megan Wanders. This is like a nice travel site, making me really jealous with your photos and your meanderings. So here, we're on the home page. You let us know you're a travel blogger and photographer and give us the opportunity to explore. When I hit explore, what happens? It takes me to travel photography. So here, I get to see some really awesome images. I love that you are including a description of the location because like if I see this, I'm like, I definitely want to go there, and now I can search for it with just a little bit of the information that you've provided. So I definitely appreciate appreciate that. You've got your social media links working. I think I'm already, nope, I'm definitely following you now. Get my travel inspiration on. I'm going to jump back onto home, and I'm going to go back because we have this awesome little introduction to you. There's a lot of empty space here. So I would encourage you to think about moving this up, because I'm having to scroll to get to a lot of this content, right? So like, just think about, like, it's great content, prioritizing the placement so that there's not as much of this scrolling going on. We've got an image and then a contact form. But again, why should people contact you? Make it clear. Like, do you want to do promo pieces, sponsored content, any of that stuff? Make it easy for people to hire you for that. So we've got your portrait photography here. So this stuff is really cool, kind of loading in. Get to see everything. I'm going to click on it. Just wanted to make sure that it's loading in a light box, which it is. But so like, if you're not giving these a name and you're not removing the default metadata, it's going to put the file name in there, and this just doesn't make any sense, right? Like, this is sort of the, just how you named the file, but as far as information that's relevant and or meaningful to me as a viewer, it's just not there. So I would go ahead and delete this unless you want to give it the titles like you did for the locations on the travel photography. We got your blog, so here loading in posts about your adventures, so love seeing this. And then I think blogs are a great way to share your content, the things that you're making, the things that you're inspired by, and a little bit more about your process. So it's not just like, look at this pretty thing or look at this thing I did, but talking more about like your thoughts and feelings regarding it. I think that's a really valuable way to understand a creative and ultimately what they can bring into collaboration. So I'm glad to see that. Book online, so a way that we can monetize, right? Like, so you have all of these creative skills, and how does that translate into a business plan or an income stream? So I'm glad to see that you've gone ahead and made it easy for people to do that with you. So this is great. I love seeing the development of it. Keep adding to it. You'll probably, as the years continue to pass, hone in more and more on what you want this to be and the ways that it can be sustained. So I'm curious to see how that goes and to follow your journey there. So next up, we're going to take a look at Crystal's site, so A Poet's World. Notice that I have to scroll quite a bit to get down here to see, the accompanying image. This is a lot of empty space up here and here. Just like repositioning this a little bit up higher could make it so that I'm not having to scroll to get to this part, to more of the story aspect and to how you got into what it is that you're doing. So you talk a little bit about your history and poetry. Here is the home page. It kind of opened to that about page, but so discover A Poet's World, and then you give me this sort of welcome, and then we've got some of your Instagram stuff coming in. It's a little bit of a disconnect for me that your Instagram is coming in here on the home page. I would think that maybe you would want to highlight, one of your poems, over this. I can see that, perhaps this is that there, but I think that there's an opportunity for you to prioritize this content if that is, really what this site is all about. Jumping over to blog. So here your posts are coming in. Again, I love to see a blog included on these sites. If you're a great writer and you want to showcase that ability, a blog is awesome for SEO, but also for sharing your thoughts and more of your creative process. One thing I'll say is that this font that you're using here, it's cool for headings or subheadings, but it's a little bit harder to read in longer format. So like, for your body text, I would use something that's a little bit cleaner, just because people don't tend to read as much online. They skip around, so you want to do everything that you can to make it as easy as possible to read. So jumping here to portfolio, this is kind of coming in. You talk about, being a poet, but here we have a lot of design projects. So like, that's a bit of a disconnect for me. So in the same way that Anthony is getting into web, you are a poet, but you've got this stuff here. So I'm just not sure how it all fits. And like, everybody is their own unique puzzle where there's all of these things that they can do and that they want to do, and it has to, form this picture of who they are, right? But like, the more cohesive that picture is, and the easier it is for other people to understand, the easier it is for people to engage with you and your creativity creativity and your skill set. So if you want to be a designer, which this is what, what you're sharing is design work, I would think about how to contextualize that more in the copy and the way that you're introducing yourself. If it's just that you feel like you need to share it because you're doing it in school, I'll tell you, you don't, right? Like if you don't want to do this work when you get out, then you don't need to include it like in your portfolio. Just like getting the messaging clear about who you are and what it is that you want to do in a way that feels, most true to your skills, talents, and how you want to use them. So here we've got your resume. I was really impressed with it when I saw it a couple weeks ago. It looks great, but it's not meant to be an image that's placed here. Like if I can pick it up and grab it, it's an image. I can't highlight the text. And if I can't highlight the text, that means Google can't find it. So although it looks great in its in this layout because you can print it out and make it look awesome, here this doesn't work because it's just a collection of pixels in the shape of words. So what you're going to want to do is take this text and create a layout that has 2 columns, right? And like mimic this layout but with text on this page. Last but not least, we have a contact form. I would encourage you to think about saying why people should contact you. Is it for design? Is it for poetry? Making it, again, this is another area where you can help make it clear, what it is that you do and what it is you want to do with other people. This was Paula's site, Tanya's site, but many times when you're working with different content management system, whether it's Wix or WordPress or Squarespace, when you're in the back end and you have your site and it hasn't been published yet, or maybe it's private, there are certain things that you're going to need to do to make it visible. And so with Squarespace, you're going to have to change the visibility settings and probably provide a viewing password if you haven't made the site live yet. If you're in Wix, you're going to have to log out and then send this link once you've logged out. Same with WordPress. So, that's something you guys always need to be careful of, especially like if you're not working with a custom domain. And by that, I mean, like, check out Anthony up here. He's got his name.com. Like, that's goals, right? Like, everybody should have this, if they're going to have a site that they want to use when they leave MCBS. So instead of kind of working with Wix or Squarespace and the URLs they provide you, but getting something custom is going to be nice. So Paula, I'm going to need you to follow up with me with an active link there. So we're going to take a look at Khalid's site. So we've got sort of this dynamic motion coming in, which is cool. We've got the logo up here at the top, and then your name here lets us know this is what you do, and this is what we can expect when we're looking here. Kind of scrolling down, not much here on this home page, right? We got this, which is cool, but not a lot of content. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. It's going to go to the About Me, kind of sharing about what you do, right? So branding, marketing, objectives. We got this awesome image of you. And then something's kind of like popping up there, extra. So that was kind of a neat little dynamic ad. Here I can download your resume. It's good to see that it's a PDF. That's definitely how you want your resume coming in. Not as a Word doc, not as an image. We got your music. Click on that. So here it's got your tracks. So it's cool. Like I appreciate the embed. Okay. The embed is nice because it doesn't send me somewhere else off your site. So if I'm here to check you out and you send me to if you send me to SoundCloud, then I'm no longer on your site and I can't see everything that you do anymore. So this is a good call. Videos kind of coming in. So here we can see, I can go ahead and press play on these. You give me City Showcase, Battery Park. I like that you're giving me the title. So an interview with this guy, athlete interview, because like that's context. Like let's say I don't have time to watch all of these, right? But I want to see what you do in terms of music videos. I would choose this one instead of having to watch a little snippet of each one. So that's appreciated, definitely. And good job with your custom domain name too. With videos, guys, I always appreciate the title, the description, a detailing of what you did on it so I can more fully understand the depth of your skills and the scope of the work. If you did everything, I want to know that because like that tells me more about the person that I'm considering to hire for projects. So we've got your designs coming in, branding and ads. So I'm going to click on this. You tell me it's a full sale project. You made some ads, which is cool. But I would like to know more about like, what was your design process? You share this stuff with me, but like, you know, like talk me through a little bit more talk me through like your decisions about why you chose what you did. That is your design concepts. That's going to be really valuable for you as a designer, and a way to set yourself apart from other people who have awesome portfolios too. So blog, it's going to take me to some articles, and I'm going to click on one, and then it's going to showcase a little bit about you know, each of these topics. Again, I think blogs are a great way to share your knowledge and passion about different things. So definitely encourage the addition of those. I like to use a blog as a way to announce new collaborations or new projects, or let's just say like I'm going to try a new skill entirely that like I have no idea what I'm doing. I might not be producing portfolio level work yet in whatever skill that is, but I can at least kind of showcase that I'm like a lifelong learner, or like constantly developing my skills. Last but not least, we've got contact. So just this, so like this is a bit of a disconnect, right? So contact me, that's singular, and say, pardon me, I misspoke because I thought this said we would love to hear from you. So like that's just one thing, just to, it's good to go ahead and say, like if you are talking about yourself like as a singular person, like me or I, or first person language, you want to keep that consistent. And if you're talking about yourself, your company, your organization, your duo, then using we and staying consistent with that language. With anything, you want to, you know, have that cohesiveness in the voice in whatever you do. You've got your social media over here. It is in fact linking out to all the places where you're sharing content. I'm going to go ahead and check out your Instagram, have that load in, give you a follow too. Jumping here next to Carlene's site. So media communication student, where you're from, ways to get in touch, can download your resume here. Okay, so it's pulling up as a PDF, except it's not actually linked to your resume, so you're going to want to check that. And yeah, so it opens in a new window, but it's not actually a linked document, so you're going to go ahead. We have your social media links here, but as I'm hovering over them in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, I can see that they're still linking to Wix, so that's something you want to check out. You identify yourself as a media communication student striving to become a media designer. And then you talk a little bit about who you are here, your education, your experience, what you've been doing. Here's that resume. So here it's just an image though. Like I've given you some feedback on this in previous weeks about moving this to where it needs to be. But as something to include on your site, it needs to be selectable text that I can highlight, copy, and paste instead of a picture of your resume, because that won't be able to be indexed by search engines. And so you want to be able to be found, right? So you're going to go ahead and do that. Let's see, kind of scrolling down, skills and languages, what you bring to the table, kind of, it says skill, okay. It's interesting. I would separate skills and languages, right? Because this is mostly skills and then you just have English here. So that's a little bit of a disconnect. So we've got video and audio production, and you give me a link to a video. Two thoughts here. One is I'd like to see the video embedded here on the page with a title and also with a custom thumbnail. And anytime you're providing a link, you don't want to put just the URL. Like this is just nonsensical letters and numbers that don't mean anything, right? If you want me to get an idea, maybe say view video, and then you could put the title of the video, and then that way you could mask this link with that language. So scrolling down, these are ways that I can check out your work, but you're really making me take a lot of steps to get there instead of just embedding and showing me right here on this page. So we've got awards, things that you do, interests, so all that's great. Again, your social media is not linked down here, and it seems that that your resume isn't linked with that button there. This is a great template, right? Except there's a lot that needs to be populated. So the biggest opportunity, I can see that you've got content, right? But like you're sending me to other places to view it. Think of this as your house, right? You want everything under one roof. Don't send me down the street, down the block to go learn something about you. Like it all should be here. It should be cohesive. It should have, like consistent voice and a consistent look. So that's the opportunity moving forward. Next up, we're going to take a look at Michael's site. So professional photographer, demo reel. So things, I'm looking at this as kind of a cover page. You say professional photographer and then demo reel. So that to me, I think video. So immediately that's a disconnect. And then we've got your social media down here, places to connect. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that those are linking to other pages. So it is. I'm going to go ahead and give you a follow there. Let's jump in. So actually, before we do, let's talk about these cover pages. Like, it's essentially like making me like knock and wait for somebody to answer, so to speak, at the front door instead of just like welcoming into your house and to seeing things. I'm not a fan. It's an additional step to get to the content. So now, okay, it's moving me to this about page. I see a little bit about you. I've got, this is a great page. It's laid out. It's totally clean. Find out more about you and your talents. If I go ahead and select this, see that it's taking me back to this page, right? And so now I have to go, I can't just jump to another, a link. I have to go back in and something else, right? And maybe I'm like, oh, well, maybe I should go to the home page because maybe I missed that. Oh no, it's this cover page again. So you can see you get lost in a little bit of a loop, and that can be frustrating for folks. This text is a little light, so I would go in and change that to make it a bit darker. Disconnect for me again is that on the front page you call yourself a professional photographer. Here you call yourself an aspiring professional photographer. Using the word professional is like saying that you made it, right? And so, but putting aspiring in front of that is like saying, I hope to make it one day. I think that instead of putting either one of those things, because like we all exist on this spectrum, right? Like you're a good photographer, and some days your work might look professional and some days it might look experimental. But so maybe you just call yourself a photographer and let your work speak for itself, right? Like if somebody wants to hire you for your style or for your eye or for your vision, it doesn't matter if you're quote unquote professional or not. It just matters if like they see value in your creativity. So I don't think you need to put that label on yourself. You're going to jump here over to portfolio, choose photo reel. So I would just call this photography, not reel, because that language makes me think video work. So I see some different images here. I'd like to maybe, it looks like all of this stuff was taken on the same day. I would maybe encourage you, well, maybe not. This looks a little arid and this looks a little bit more lush. But I would just kind of encourage you to diversify what we see here, so that you have more of a spectrum of work for people to look at. And then I would call this demo reel, right? So video, so it's going to kind of show. I can press play here. So it's not really a demo reel as much as it is videos that you've done. So a demo reel would be like a montage of all of the greatest videos. So here you've given me this work, so that's cool, except no context to understand what I'm looking at. Give me a title, give me a description, tell me everything that you did, tell me the equipment you used, tell me the software that you used to edit it, and give me custom thumbnails on these, because the videos alone don't really tell me as much as you should be telling me if you want me to hire you for some of this work. So then connect, just simple get in touch, and ways that you can be reached. So, your site is really clean. I'm highly encouraged by it as a canvas for you to, showcase your work. With a few tweaks, it can get to a really good place by the time that you graduate. Last but not least, let's take a look at AJ. So we have your name up there at the top, and then branding, design, and content creation, letting us know what you do. We got this image of you, and not much else here on the homepage. So this, I believe, is like not capitalizing on the high value real estate that you have here to showcase a little bit more about this work, right? I'm going to jump to the about page. So here we have a photo of you, and then like a kind of a long paragraph that I think could be broken up into smaller paragraphs to make it easier to read. Like now your navigation is gone, so where do I go? I've got to go back to the home page to go somewhere else. So that's something that you're going to need to fix. I would argue that you could make your about page the home page instead of, you know, having these two separate. They could be consolidated. Experience, so work, music, photography. So you know, this is a little clumsy in that like the menus aren't, like it's not intuitive that this is a folder structure, right? So, but let's see here. So we've got work. It's kind of hard to actually get there. Let's go to music. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Oh, something happened. Okay, so it's coming here. Social media for this company that you work for, right? So I'm seeing this and it's showing sort of like a strategy, but what's even better than showing sort of a collection of work under a single banner or client is to show the impact of that work. So can you talk about engagement of people with this material since the time that you've been managing those accounts? That's going to showcase not just your content creation abilities, but also the effectiveness of your strategies. So something to think about there. I can see this nav kind of poking out here again, but like definitely more work needs to be done on this to make it usable. So going to switch to music. So we have just some different clips, and I like that I can play them right in here. Got your SoundCloud page. All right, so I was just giving a little play on that. I like that you have like these photos next to them, but like I just want to understand more. I want to understand more about you as a creator. I want to understand more about what, you know, like what you were thinking about or your creative process as you're doing some of this stuff. You know, I think that that would be interesting. I think it would be compelling. I think it would add dimension to these as creative pieces to understand more about the foundational ideas behind them. I got to go back to the home page now to go back to experience to then go to photography. So you're making it real hard to get to this content. So here we have different stuff, a lot of nature. Hey, I know these guys. Scrolling down, you're like, this is great work. You know, it seems like you've got like the nature stuff and then some portraiture. Like, do you want to organize that in a way? Like, do you want to specialize that, curate it a little bit more? I mean, it's cool that you're sharing it because it's all high quality, but like it doesn't jive so much with like the social media content and the music and all of that stuff. Like, it just isn't a cohesive kind of. Like, what am I looking at? How do we stitch all of these things together? That is the patchwork quilt of AJ, right? That is everybody's like challenge, but like to do so in a way that feels like authentic and easy to communicate when someone's not sitting right across from you. Like that, you know, that is the task at hand. And, you know, it would be my greatest hope that you would all feel like you were creating something that had life beyond this moment, that it would be something that you could use to share who you are with a potential employer or a client. So whatever makes most sense in that regard is what should be done. So here, resume. So this is kind of like pulling up what we saw. This looks like it is a picture of your resume. And we've talked about why that's not a best practice, just because it's not searchable and that it's just a collection of pixels in the shape of words. It's also a little bit, you know, harder to read when you have compression there on that image. So contact, just ways to get in touch. These are places online, you know, where you are sharing more about you. Go ahead and follow you in that space too. Yeah, so guys, like there's a lot of great stuff here, but again, the expectation and the hope is that you revise this site with this feedback and your own evolving understanding of what your portfolio can do for you post-graduation, and do that before your next portfolio class, because you're super close to the end. High five on that, but there's much work to be done. If you have any questions, please let me know.